When I think of black women in the media as far as the military, it's almost as if we don't exist. Say you just you're watching television and you see a recruiting commercial for the military, it's always male. If you do see a female though, I don't think I've ever seen a commercial where it's been a minority female, let alone an African American female. And oftentimes when you see on the news, say it's a homecoming ceremony or when you see families being reunited, it's always a male that's welcoming or open arms and his wife and his children are running to him. So I'd say if anything, we don't exist at all. When you pull the statistics of black females in the military, it's already a small percentage. But I also think that when you think of soldier, the last thing you think of is a female. And of course, even deeper than that, probably the last thing you would associate with that is a black female. So I just think it doesn't go along with the association of what a soldier, a sailor, or an airman or a military person is.
Women themselves have not been given the credit for serving in the military, especially African American women. People act as though they never thought of that African American women especially could be serving along fighting forces. But women have a rich history and a long history of working with military men. And it started from the first war that we've ever had, the American Revolution, that women were a very essential commodity to have. They could let men be released from jobs so that they could go and fight secretarial jobs, drivers, cooks, seamstresses, uniform makers.
Within the nursing corps, that's how a lot of black females were able to join the military. It was in a nursing capacity. And they eventually were able to get commissioned, become officers, and have careers within the military. So we do have a long history in the military.
As African American women progress in the military as a whole, I definitely feel like there is not as much attention. And I think that just goes back to the dynamic of the beginning of time when the military was first born and how we were segregated, and now we are integrated armed services.
I was born into the military. My father was a retired NCO, is a retired NCO, and so all my life I grew up military background, military installations, military schools, and for me, when I got in college, it was kind of like the next step after college.
When I was a little girl, I used to always play with Barbie dolls, and I had a best friend, there was a little boy, he played with G.I. Joes. So the deal was, when he came over to my home, we would play with Barbies. I had a Ken doll for him and everything. And when I went to his house, we would play with G.I. Joe. And I was naturally G.I. Jane. So I grew up always with affinity for the military.
The military is pretty much the family business. My dad did 20 years. My sister was already in. She had gone to a military school and gotten her commission and was working on her bachelor's. I had cousins who had been in the military, aunts, uncles, and my first go around in college, I had a lot of fun. I really didn't worry about my grades. So when I really found something that I wanted to do, and I know I had to get the education to go behind it, the Army was a way to do that, and in addition, I'd also get the experience.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
I was involved in Operation Iraqi Freedom 1 and Operation Iraqi Freedom 3. I started out as a private first class in January of 2001, and at the time I got out the military, I was sergeant, promotable. I actually was a food service specialist, so dining facility, you know, you have to keep soldiers happy. So when you think of the top 3 things soldiers need, it's food, water, and shelter. Those were the things that we, as a unit and as a team, ensured that the rest of our unit had.
I became the first woman to be an aircraft maintenance officer in the Air Force and was immediately sent to Thailand during the Vietnam War. I received a Bronze Star for my work there, being the first woman ever to be working a flight line. I became one of the first 2 women to be commanders at the Air Force Academy, the first woman to be a vice commander at a depot, the first woman to be the deputy commander or the director of maintenance in the Pentagon for the Air Force, in charge of all the weapon systems, all the airplanes. And I became the first African-American woman to be a general in the Air Force and the first African-American woman to be a 2-star general in the country. They inspect aircraft. They find out what problems are. We schedule the workers. I was also someone who, a sortie is what an aircraft would fly. I would go into our job control a lot, find out what's expected, find out my plane's coming back, what kind of problems, electrical, engine, hydraulic, what kind of problems radar my aircraft had them schedule the workers to come out there and repair it. Pilots would tell you whether the problem was flyable or not. If it wasn't flyable, then the plane was grounded. So I would run around coordinating all of those kinds of things. It wouldn't surprise you or didn't surprise people at all to see me walking up and down the line and also with a radio in my hand.
African-American woman, you are, again, plagued with stereotypes. Are you ghetto? Are you bougie? Are you from the block? Are you smart? Are you not as smart? You know, it's just like you have a lot to prove, and other people always have this image of what you should be, and then when you open your mouth and you start to lead or show your leadership characteristics, it's a shock.
Probably about 50 people in that platoon, 2 females, to include myself being one of the females, and the rest were all males. And fortunately, I had an extremely good experience working with males. I guess just coming up the way that I came up, I never had a problem working with men. So when I got down in that platoon, I was a female platoon leader. Didn't hold no punches. I went in, did my job. So for me, it was an excellent experience.
I think each individual has their own talents and abilities. I don't really judge someone's ability to do certain things based on their sex, just on the way they carry themselves and how they believe they can do a certain job. I definitely saw some differences. I think during my military career, which wasn't long, I only had like 1 or 2 people that I encountered that was really, you know, they gave off that vibe like, you know, women shouldn't be here, that kind of thing. And I really didn't give a damn. So I didn't ask them to do my job for me. I was willing and able to do it myself. So I didn't pay any attention to them in any way, shape, or form. I just did what I felt I needed to do.
The military is not a place for an African American woman. We're still considered a lower class in the military. Basically, we're the wrong color and the wrong sex.
I was never real conscious of the fact that I was an African American woman. I was made to be conscious of the fact that I was a woman. There were times when people were rude to me and even could be insulting. But if I never let it get to me, then it didn't happen. Their pettiness didn't change the direction of where I was going.
We should be perceived as any other soldier or sailor or any other person in the military. I don't think that there's really much of a difference. But if anything, I would like to see more stories told, especially in the way that society has changed now that more females are in the workforce. It's also reflected within the military. Now more females are being heads of household also in the military. So it is more common now where you will see females as the head of the household and married to a husband who may not be in the military. And that's the reality. More women are serving in the military, more serving overseas, more getting injured.
Everybody remembers Jessica Lynch, the 19-year-old private captured in an ambush and rescued by American Special Forces.
The headline in the Washington Post, she was fighting to the death. In it, Private First Class Lynch is portrayed as a kind of Rambo. The source, U.S. officials.
April 12th. Jessica Lynch is a certified hero and a media celebrity. 600 articles have been written about her. Television networks compete for an interview. MTV offers her a show. Her agent negotiates $1 million book deal, and NBC prepares a television movie, Saving Private Lynch.
I became a prisoner of war on March 23rd, 2003. My unit, 507th Maintenance Company, was ambushed in Nazareth, Iraq. During the ambush, 11 people died, and myself and 4 men were taken captive. Me and the guys later found out that Lynch was also captured that day.
When we looked in the media, we saw there was such a big difference in how she was actually receiving coverage versus Jessica Lynch. I have to keep it real. When I first heard the story about Jessica Lynch and they talked about this female, how she fought off the Taliban or whoever she was supposed to have fought off, they portrayed her as being a hero, that she was the one who really saved her unit. And although she was captured, she was the hero. And then you didn't hear that much about Shauna.
What's your name?
Shauna.
Shauna?
Yes.
Where do you come from?
Texas.
You come from Texas?
Yes.
اسمها شانا وقادمة من مدينة تكساس. How old are you?
30.
Yes? 30 سنة.
From any unit?
From any unit in American Army.
507th Maintenance. During the ambush, I was terrified, definitely. I really didn't know what was going to happen from second to second. And I think that's the most terrifying thing you could really experience. Not knowing what's going to happen to you. Not knowing if they're going to be nice, not knowing if you're going to get shot, or, if they're going to torture you, rape you, or anything like that. Those are all the things that went through my mind during the ambush and capture. I spent 22 days in captivity. During those 22 days, we were moved a lot of different times, and I was very blessed. They gave me medical care. They operated on my legs because I got shot during the ambush. They fed me, and it wasn't the best treatment in the world, but it was much better than I ever expected.
How their stories were perceived was very typical of how the disparities in the military play out with black and white women. You know, there was so much of a push to build Jessica Lynch's story and make her the heroine and make her this proud American who served, selflessly. Whereas Shoshana was kind of pushed aside.
As far as the media attention, she is the cute little blonde, and they do pump that up. But I wasn't on the cover of Jet either. So I don't think, you could really attribute that to race. People talk about, oh, she was on the cover of People. I said, well, Jet didn't put me on the cover. So if it's all about race, then they could have equaled it out by, there's Ebony, there's Essence, and I did do articles for them, but I wasn't on the cover of anything.
I was told that if I gave in to sexual advances that were made by people that were superior to me, that would help me up the ladder. But I wanted to get there on my own merit.
I was approached by several, not only officers, but regular NCOs that basically you're not with your man, your husband, or your significant other. Let me do the things to you that they would do for you. At some point, you did feel like it was an obligation for you to survive over there.
Point blank, women are scared. You don't know what you're going to face when you open your mouth to speak out about this injustice that has occurred. You fight so hard to be equal with men, just to be equal, put on the same rank, to wear the same uniform, but yet when it comes time to picking up certain weapons and going on certain details, you can't because you're a woman. So imagine knowing that and then opening your mouth and stating that, this horrible crime has happened to you. You've been sexually assaulted or you've been sexually harassed, and there's that fear that maybe you'll hear, oh, just suck it up. They didn't really mean it. You're taking it the wrong way.
One battalion commander who the first thing, he did the change of command, and the first thing he said to me was, Lieutenant Jones, because I was a first lieutenant at the time, he said, your legs look very athletic. And he was not looking at my legs, he was looking at the space between my legs.
You had more officers and higher enlisted that wanted to basically date you or become a partner with you in order for you to get ranked quickly.
So that has caused a problem for a lot of women in the military as well, because we don't know if our enemy is in front of us or in the ranks with us. Because I've met a lot of veterans who have been sexually assaulted, or just outright raped by fellow servicemen.
That I look at soldiers now who the majority of their life has been in war. And so when you look at that, it's a different army, it's a different military, and you have so many of them that are really psychologically scarred now because of their service, back to back deployments, family violence, wives not knowing who they are, husbands not knowing their wives when they come back, children not knowing their parents.
Due to some circumstances while I was in Desert Storm, I actually have a neurological disease at this time. I'm on a daily regimen of steroids. I take somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of steroids a day just for the ability to walk. I can't walk straight. I basically feel like I have a constant vertigo where I'm falling a lot, I'm tripping over things, I'm going to the side a lot. If I did not take the steroids, I would not be able to drive according to the standards set by the DMV.
Like different pain pills, sleeping pills,
I just stopped taking all these, and I got some, like these are vitamins that I have to take, I'm supposed to take. I don't take. It's just like different meds. I just don't want to be no walking zombie. But there's so much you label as the crazy vet. So, I just don't even take them. It may be a constant reminder that, you know, that Iraq affected me or stuff like that. You know, you have to deal with the realization that something did happen.
I came back after Desert Storm. I think really charged, but still kind of like in a fog. That experience changed me in ways that I didn't know at the time. I realized then that I really needed some help. I received help from the VA. I was given a date of October 31st that I should come in for my appointment. But the day before that, that morning, my son, something happened where I just grabbed my son and I was going to hang him over the banister from the top floor. And my other two babies were looking at me going, "Mom, please, no, Mom," you know. And I knew right then I had to get help. So once I got them off to school, I went over to the VA. And the lady said, "Well, your appointment is tomorrow. So why did you come in today?" I said, "Well, my today is my tomorrow. Because if I'm not seeing you today, I won't make it until tomorrow." That's how bad it was.
I feel like I was just doing my duty.
I love the fact that, you know, I was doing something for my country. It was my civic duty. So I love that. And I think I would still, if I had to do it over again, I would still do it over again because I really do love this country. I love people. I love my family. And if there was no people like me and the other people who joined the military and put their lives on the line, what would this country be? What would this world be?
I did my job. That's, you know, I think the difference between a hero and you know, just somebody that's doing their job and things like that is that I didn't expect it. It happened. I think I held on as best possible. Heroes are the ones that have it in the back of their head that they know this is going to go wrong and they do it anyway.
Women are a force to be reckoned with, and a lot of people don't realize that we are.
What can I say? African American women, we're beautiful. We have it going on. We walk around with our heads held high. We get rank. You know, not because it's given to us, but we earn it. We're hard workers. We definitely put in our time and we went for it.
I'd say being a black woman in the military, you have to be aware of who you are and how you may be perceived in the military, but not letting that impede you from taking any opportunities or anything like that.
So experiencing things because I was African American or experiencing things because I'm a woman, that didn't happen if I didn't give in to it.